The return. The emergency session of the Galactic Council began with a shudder that ran through the Grand Chamber. 3,000 delegates representing the most powerful civilizations in the known universe fell silent as first speaker Velara took her position at the central podium. Her 6 limbs, arranged in perfect symmetry, manipulated the control panel with practiced precision. "Counselors," she began, her voice resonating through the vast hall. "We face an unprecedented situation." The holographic display above activated, showing a massive fleet of unknown vessels at the edge of Council space. The ships were sleek, their hulls shimmering with a material that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. They moved with a precision that suggested either perfect automation or perfect discipline. These vessels appeared at the outer boundary of the Xylos system 12 hours ago. Velara continued. "They have made no aggressive moves, but they have ignored all standard identification protocols." Counselor Zahn of the Merethi Consortium rose, his crystalline form catching the light. "Have they responded to any communication attempts?" "One message only," Velara replied, her expression grim. "They said, 'We have returned. Prepare the Council for justice.'" The chamber erupted into murmurs and exclamations. "Justice. Returned." The implication sent waves of unease through the assembly. Elder Gresh, an ancient being whose species had been among the founding members of the Council, raised a withered appendage. "There is something familiar about their drive signatures, something I haven't seen in a very long time." The chamber doors opened with a resonant boom. All eyes turned to see a single figure standing in the entrance. Tall, bipedal, wearing an environmental suit of unfamiliar design, the newcomer moved forward with deliberate steps. Guards moved to intercept but froze at a gesture from Velara. "How did you bypass our security?" she demanded, trying to maintain her composure. The figure reached up and removed its helmet with a soft hiss. The face revealed belonged to a species not seen in Council space for 500,000 years, unmistakably human, yet subtly different. The eyes were larger, with an iridescent quality to them. The skin had an unusual blue-gold undertone. The bone structure was more refined, stronger. "Your security is impressive, first speaker," the human said, voice smooth and controlled. "It was impressive 500,000 years ago, too." Absolute silence fell over the chamber. Elder Gresh's appendages trembled visibly. "Impossible," he whispered, yet his voice carried through the stunned quiet. "Your kind was dealt with." "My name is Commander Ilara Way of the Terran Collective," the human announced. "And yes, Elder Gresh, we were dealt with." An interesting euphemism for attempted genocide. The council erupted again, younger counselors looking confused while the elders appeared increasingly agitated. Velara slammed her ceremonial staff against the floor repeatedly until quiet returned. "These are serious accusations," Velara said carefully. "Whatever grievance you believe." "It is not belief, first speaker," Ilara interrupted, her voice still calm but cutting like a blade. "It is recorded fact." She activated a device on her wrist. The council's main display changed, now showing historical records, an actual council session from 500,000 years earlier. Many current counselors watched in horror as their predecessors calmly discussed the most efficient methods to eliminate the human problem. "They advanced too quickly," said a counselor from 500,000 years ago. "Their governance is fractured, their temperament violent. They represent a clear danger to galactic stability." "The vote is nearly unanimous," announced the first speaker of that time. "Earth will be rendered uninhabitable, for the greater good." The footage continued, showing massive engineered solar flares directed at Earth, artificial tectonic destabilization, and finally the systematic destruction of a vibrant blue world. The scenes of devastation were horrific. Enormous tsunamis, cities crumbling, billions dying as the skies burned. The survivors, Ilara continued as the footage showed damaged human ships being pursued, were driven toward a wormhole believed to lead to an empty, resource-poor region from which they could never return. Your records confirmed the wormhole collapsed afterward. the matter of humanity was considered resolved. Councillor Tresca, a representative of the peaceful Lomi people, stood up, her luminescent skin paled with distress. These records, they could be fabricated. But they are not. Elder Gresh said quietly. I was a junior advisor then. I witnessed this decision. A collective gasp rippled through the chamber. If what you say is true, Councillor Zahn said carefully, how have you returned? The wormhole collapsed. It did, Ilara agreed. After we passed through, we emerged in a distant galaxy, harsh and unforgiving, without the resources your reports claimed would be there. She paused, her eyes sweeping across the assembly. But we survived. We adapted. We evolved. For revenge? Asked a counselor, unable to hide the fear in his voice. For justice, Ilara corrected. The fleet approaching your space carries representatives from every human colony across 52 worlds, united by a single purpose. You speak of justice, yet you threaten us with warships, Valera countered. Not warships, first speaker. Transport vessels. We come in strength because history taught us the consequence of weakness. Then what do you want? Tresca asked. Ilara's expression softened slightly. Acknowledgement, reparations, and most importantly, reform. The council that ordered our destruction still exists in this very chamber. Its founding principles remain unchanged. She looked around the room, meeting the eyes of various counselors. We return to ensure no other emerging species faces what we faced. How many ships? Vilara asked quietly. 1,736, one for each human vessel driven through the wormhole. And their capabilities. Ilara simply looked at her. The silence was answer enough. The matter will be discussed, Vilara finally said. The council will need time to verify your claims and consider an appropriate response. Of course, Ilara said, replacing her helmet. You have 3 standard days. Our fleet will hold position until then. As she turned to leave, Councillor Tresca called out. Commander Way, the humans who survived. How many? Ilara paused at the doorway. From Earth, less than 10 million. 1 in 1,000. The helmet turned back toward the council. We remember each name of those who didn't make it. All at 11 billion. As the human departed, the council chamber remained silent for several long moments. Is it true? Young Councillor Tresca finally asked, looking at Elder Greshk. Did we really do this? The ancient counselor didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on the doorway where Ilara had disappeared. History, it seemed, had returned to collect its debt. Reckoning and renaissance. The council deliberation chamber had never felt so tense. For 2 days, the representatives of 500 civilizations had argued, accused and despaired. Elder Greshk had confirmed the authenticity of the historical records, to the horror of most present. How could we not have known? Demanded Councillor Tresca, her luminescence fluctuating with distress. Such a crime hidden for 500,000 years. It wasn't hidden. Elder Greshk replied wearily. It was justified. Sanitized in our records as the human containment. Those who objected were outvoted or silenced. First Speaker Vilara studied the projections before her. The analysis of the human fleet's capabilities was troubling. Their technology had evolved along paths entirely unknown to Council science. Energy signatures suggested weapon systems of devastating potential. Their hulls contained elements not on the periodic table recognized by Council chemists. We cannot fight them, she announced finally. Not without catastrophic losses. Then we surrender? Zahn asked incredulously. To a species numbering a fraction of our collective populations. We negotiate, Valera corrected. Councillor Tresca, you will join me in meeting with Commander Way. Your species advocated against the original action. Perhaps that will count for something. Aboard the Terran flagship Mimosine, Ilara Way received the Council representatives in a chamber designed to put them at ease. Environmental conditions adjusted to their physiology, furnishings reminiscent of Council architecture. First Speaker Vilara, Councillor Tresca. she greeted them. "I appreciate your willingness to speak directly. Before we begin formal negotiations," Valera said, "we would ask to understand more about what happened after the wormhole. If we are to make amends, we must comprehend the full scope of what was endured." Ilara nodded and activated a holographic display. "The wormhole ejected us here, in what we call the Dark Reach, a region between galactic arms with few stars and fewer habitable worlds." The display showed the remnant fleet, down to less than 500 vessels, approaching a dim red star. "We found our first foothold on a frozen world we named Haven. Surface temperature averaged -70 degrees. Toxic atmosphere. High radiation. But it had liquid water under the ice and enough resources to build shelters." The images showed humans in makeshift environmental suits carving habitations from the ice, setting up primitive fusion reactors. "We lost 30% of our remaining population in the first year," Ilara said quietly. "But those who survived began to adapt." The hologram shifted to show humans working in laboratories, then children with slightly altered features, thicker skin, eyes with protective membranes, more efficient lungs. Necessity drove innovation. By the third generation on Haven, we had developed technologies to alter our own genetic code to help us survive. As centuries passed, the humans expanded to other worlds, each presenting new challenges, each forcing new adaptations. The timeline accelerated, showing a civilization evolving at an astonishing rate. 500,000 years, Ilara continued. 20,000 generations. We changed. Not just our bodies, but our minds, our society, our understanding of reality itself. The hologram showed glimpses of a civilization that had taken paths undreamed of by the Council. Cities that merged with living ecosystems, vessels that seemed to exist partially in other dimensions, humans with subtle adaptations that went beyond physical into cognitive realms. We became the wanderers, and through it all, we remembered. For 500,000 years, we preserved the memory of Earth, of the Council's betrayal, of the billions who never escaped. Tresca's luminescence had dimmed to nearly nothing, a sign of profound emotional impact in her species. "What happened to your world was unforgivable," she whispered. "And yet," Ilara said, "we are not here for vengeance." She activated a new display, showing a document. "This is the Terran Collective's proposal. We call it the Covenant of Ascension. Its principles are simple. No developing species shall be hindered in their natural evolution without direct evidence of aggressive intent. No Council action shall be taken against any civilization without transparent deliberation and the right of defense. And a new body shall be established, the Protectorate, with the power to intervene if these principles are violated." Valera studied the document, her expression unreadable. "And if we refuse, then we withdraw and establish our own sphere of influence. But know this, we will never again allow ourselves to be vulnerable to the Council's fear, and we will offer protection to any species that seeks it." "You would fragment the galaxy," Valera said. "You already did that 500,000 years ago," Ilara replied. "We offer a chance to heal the fracture." The final Council vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. The ancient crime against humanity was formally acknowledged. Reparations would be made in the form of technological exchange and access to resources, and most significantly, the Covenant of Ascension would become the new foundation of galactic law. In the Grand Council chamber, now expanded to include the representatives of 52 human worlds, First Speaker Valera and Commander Wei signed the historic document. The moment was broadcast across 20,000 worlds in Council space. "Today marks a new era," Valera announced. "One built on the recognition that diversity, even when it challenges us, is the galaxy's greatest strength." Ilara Wei stood before the assembled Council, her expression solemn but hopeful. 500,000 years ago, humanity was judged too dangerous to exist among the stars. Today, we return not as conquerors, but as partners. The path that brought us here was paved with unimaginable suffering, but it led to unimaginable growth. She gestured to her fellow humans, each subtly different, adapted to their various homeworlds, standing proudly in the chamber. We are no longer simply human. We are Terran. We are the children of Earth and the children of stars you never named. We bring not only our grievance but our gifts, perspectives and technologies born of necessity and isolation. Elder Gresh, who had witnessed humanity's banishment, and now its return, approached Ilara. His ancient form seemed smaller now, humbled by the weight of history. "I was wrong," he said, his voice breaking. "We were all wrong. In our fear of your potential, we failed to see our own failure of wisdom." "The past cannot be undone," Ilara replied, "but the future remains unwritten." Within a decade, the galaxy transformed. Human technologies merged with Council science, creating new possibilities. The Protectorate identified 17 developing civilizations that had been stagnating under Council restrictions, now freed to follow their own paths under careful guidance rather than constraint. On a garden world at the edge of Council space, a monument was erected, a simple obelisk of Earth stone, recovered from the depths of space where fragments of the shattered planet had drifted for 500,000 years. Inscribed upon it were 11 billion names, preserved in human memory through the generations, now returned to the galaxy that had tried to forget them. And in council chambers across the galaxy, a new tradition began. Before each session, representatives would recite the Covenant's opening words. "From the ashes of Earth, we learned this truth, that no civilization rises alone, and none should fall by another's hand. In the vast darkness between stars, we are each other's light. Let no fear extinguish it again." Humanity had returned not just to reclaim its place among the stars, but to ensure that the stars themselves would shine brighter for all who looked up in wonder.